My name is Cliff Burbrower, and I was the editor on this film. Editing has one purpose, and that's to tell a story. It shouldn't draw attention to itself, it should be the invisible thread that stitches everything together. A movie's style should always be secondary to the story, and in the best case scenario, should be conceived in the pre production of a film rather than in the edit bay. In short, if the audience is watching the editing, their attention is being drawn away from the story. The trick is to take the many pieces that you're given and put them together so they appear to be one. What sets a film apart, what really makes it special, is the coming together of scenes that don't just make story points, but rather make emotion. Editing, first and foremost, is a decision-making process, from beginning to end. Every edit that's made in a film is a decision that, combined with thousands of other edits or decisions, should hopefully solve the bigger question of, are we moving the story forward in the most clear and compelling way? It's important for the editor to keep a healthy perspective on the big picture at all times, so smooth and convincing character development can be achieved. I would say that 10% of editing is technical. While there is a certain level of competence that you need to work in Avid, the machine itself is essentially an extension of your mind. It's there to help you execute your thoughts and your ideas. I would say that editing is sometimes an art and sometimes a craft. It really depends on the material that you're given to work with. Being a good editor doesn't always require making art. Sometimes it just requires making something clear and fun to watch. And while most of us on some level aspire to be artists or artistic, sometimes the material or the project itself doesn't really require that of us. The editor's job on any project is to execute the director's vision, but it's also to find the film's core. So I guess in essence, I approach all projects the same way. We started out by cutting everything that was shot, and we found that the story couldn't support all the scenes that were scripted. Now, this isn't terribly unusual. Oftentimes, what works on the written page doesn't translate on film. Putting all the pieces of the script together will start to bring the story into focus, but with willingness on the part of the director to depart from the script and explore different ideas, sometimes a sharper, more focused story can be found. On Passengers, we explored all sorts of things, including pulling scenes out, cutting out characters that didn't serve the story directly, but the thought of pulling anything out to the director was hard to swallow. We didn't see eye to eye on a number of exploratory ideas, so we decided to screen the film for a few small groups. We carefully weighed all the points of view and then began the process of trimming the story down to its core. This process took weeks of agonizing over the smallest details that, when finally put together, combined to create a compelling piece of film that was in the end fun to watch and clearly understood. If memory serves, the film was at least twice as long in its original incarnation, and after the first screening at the Telluride Film Festival, the director leaned over and said to me quietly under the applause, "We should have made it shorter." Which, of course, was the same thing I was whispering to him for 8 weeks previous to that. Scenes are like mini stories. They all have a beginning, middle, and end. They all have to be able to stand on their own. But more importantly, they have to be able to work as a whole, like links in a chain. Sometimes scenes work just fine by themselves, but when you watch them in context with the rest of the film, you realize that those same scenes actually don't work at all. Well, why does this happen? Well, maybe the scene is telegraphing information that we don't want to reveal yet. Maybe our character's behavior is inconsistent with what we already know. It's essential to keep the big picture in the forefront of your mind while making decisions on the micro or scene level. Because the decisions you make on the scene level might be different than the ones you make once you cut it into the film. Continuity is more than just the uninterrupted connection of a series of events. It's the creation of an environment through which the protagonist travels through time. If a convincing environment is created, then continuity is more easily achieved. This is where the director of Passengers made some of his finest choices. To start, the casting of the characters was exceptional. The wardrobe was excellent. The location, with the help of great camera work, lighting, and sound effects, made a subway car that was literally sitting still and empty in a museum somewhere in Brooklyn, New York, literally jump to life. Once the audience accepted our environment as a true-to-life moving subway car, our first challenge was over. We had successfully suspended the audience's disbelief. This is sometimes referred to as the hook, or the way to draw the audience into the story. The next challenge was to make the feather its own character. This airborne antagonist, for lack of a better term, had to be integrated into the film so the other characters looked as if they were interacting with it in the same moment in time. Now, because our environment was so believable, we were able to do this fairly easily. We could cheat eye lines, we could cross over the third wall without detection, and move the feather through the air to anyone we wanted it to go to. We were free to move around the subway car without the restriction of strict continuity, all the while giving the illusion of continuity.